Namaskara and welcome to a new episode of UVCE Chronicles, an initiative of the UVCE Graduates Association. My name is Adrian.
Hi, my name is Shrinidhi.
And we'll be your hosts for this episode. Our guest is a communication industry veteran and an industry leader. After a long and eventful career at Juniper Networks in the United States, Mr. Anand Athreya is now back in India, heading the helm of affairs as the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director Designate at Tejas Networks, a Tata Sons company that has made its mark in the industry and is a dream company for a lot of students looking to work in the communication space. Anand sir, we're glad to have you on the show. And here at Chronicles, we believe that nothing beats a first-hand introduction. So can you introduce yourself and give our listeners a brief overview about your journey so far?
So my name is Anand Athreya, and I'm a native of Bangalore. I grew up in Bangalore. In fact, studied in UVCE. And then I worked did my master's and then I worked at the Indian Institute of Science on the ERNET project. Been in the US for 35 years, always in networking. My master's thesis was in fact in networking. And it's been a good ride. Done quite a bit in my 35 years, worked for a lot of companies. Again, some of them are very long tenure, primarily at Novelty, which was a leader in networking back in the 80s and early 90s. And then, at Juniper for the longest time, for around 8.5 years. Where I was the EVP and Chief Development Officer. I was also instrumental in setting up or developing a good engineering facility in Bangalore for Juniper. And then when this opportunity to come and work at Tejas came as part of the Tata Group, for me it is coming a full circle, right? So I just took it up happily.
Okay, that's really great to know. I think there's a lot of things to learn from someone like you who has accomplished a lot in your professional career. So I think we can start off with, how did you start your career? Like, how were your days at UVCE? How did how did you start stepping onto the...
Yeah, so look, UVCE was, in my days, definitely one of the top-rated colleges. I think every good student, wanted to come and study at UVCE. So I was very lucky to be with really top-notch students, and I think a lot of them have gone to do very well in their lives, whether entrepreneurship or heading several groups in large companies. So they've done extremely well. So, but during that time, we were actually the first 4-year annual scheme. So there was a lot of learning, that happened around that time in terms of, the processes and, things like that. So yeah, after UVC, again, it was a good ride. It was also a very different, curriculum. We also it took some time for us to adapt. To this new way of, annual schemes and, things like that. We had, of course, our own challenges. But then, when I look back, I think we had a memorable experience in terms of both at college and also the friendships that have actually lasted, after now 43 years. Yeah.
Okay, so after UVC, what was your first job?
So after UVC, I did my master's and then I joined the Indian Institute of Science. As a scientific officer.
So you directly done your master's after your BTech?
Then I joined, so there was an upcoming project called ERNET. A lot of you may not remember. It is called Education and Research Networking. It was a $6 million funded program by Department of Electronics, Government of India, and United Nations Development Program. This was actually to build networking expertise in India and to interconnect all the education institutions, starting with IIC and IITs, and I think one more institute. So the good thing was there was monies available, there was a lot of interest. So every institute did something. At IIC, we developed a voice messaging system. It was a PC card where we could encode, decode voice, transfer it across the network. It was kind of path-breaking at that point, right? This is when even voice messaging was coming around in the world, and we started, and this is back in 1986-87. A lot of learning for me personally at ISE. And then, I left to the US in 1988.
Okay. So I think is that the period where you felt okay, networking is something that you want to pursue? When did you decide?
Yeah, I actually, after my BE, I was a trainee at aeronautical development establishment where I had access to a lot of computers, books and magazines that were not commonly available elsewhere. So at that time, I had made up my mind that networking would be my passion, right? That is what. So for my master's thesis, it was on networking. It was on X25. It was one of the earlier protocols to interconnect systems. And then I worked on TCP/IP and OSI transport and a lot of other protocols over a period of life. But all my life I worked only in a company that has that's primarily either had a networking name or did networking as part of the core business.
So when did you decide to make the move to the United States, and how did that come about?
So this was back in '88. And it was a strange, coincidence. Some people so at that time, they would, people would go through consulting companies and all of that. Then Microsoft had come to hire fresh out of India, right? That was unheard of, before. And some people I knew got hired, through the channel. And, at that time, I said, why not, right? Then I worked, again, I ended up in a consulting company, but they did a lot of, groundbreaking work with a company called ETS Systems. It was the second supercomputer company in the US. It was, again, part of another bigger company called Control Data, which used to be like IBM of those days. So yeah, that's how I went. But then even there I did a lot of networking consulting projects. But I realized that I have to work for a regular company doing regular products and not get swapped from one project to another. Then I joined a company called Excelan. It was it was actually founded by a couple of Indians, and it was the first company founded by an Indian to go IPO in the US. An Indian, founded company to go IPO in the US. And one of the founders, his name is Kanwal Rekhi. He is also, coincidentally, he was the founding guy for the TI, the Indus Entrepreneurs. So again, Excellent got acquired by Novell, and Novell was fantastic. They were leaders in local area networking. And that is how I really got to work with some of the best in the world.
I think you have spent maybe half of your life in the US.
Well, more than half.
Okay, yeah, more than half. So, you recently got appointed as the CEO of Tejas Networks, that is one of the leading communication equipment manufacturers. So, what made you, maybe come back to India to take up this leadership position?
See, again, I'll go back to my days at Indian Institute of Science and EarnIt. My professor, late Dr. T. Vishwanathan, he was a visionary. He would inspire us, lead by example, and what we had thought then, I see happening now, right? And India has made leaps and bounds, progress, in terms of progress. So for us, we feel that we started the journey, but of course, in my case, I went abroad, but having seen India progress that, and come back, take this opportunity, excuse me, to take it to the next level. Excuse me, to become a global, to build a company or evolve the existing company to be a global telecom and networking provider, I think is a fantastic, once in a lifetime and challenging opportunity, right? And at this point, the distances are shortened because we are all interconnected. In some ways, networking has brought us together. So, so I took a decision to relocate, right? It was not easy, having been there for 35 years. But I think if you look at the opportunity and the purpose that, you've been given, right? I think it's once in a lifetime.
So, you've been appointed the CEO of Tejas Networks. So, what do you think the roadmap looks like down the line for Tejas?
So, unfortunately, I cannot share the roadmap at this point. All I can say is, look, Tejas has been a great company. It's been around for 23 years. They pioneered the Make in India movement, and they've done a lot. They've shipped, more than 750,000 units all across the world, but primarily in India, right? There's a lot of pride at Tejas. So the key is, we're very focused on optical. And as you might have seen in the papers, as part of the TCS, Tejas, CDOT group, we won one of the largest wireless 4G upgrade order ever given in history. Maybe, China might be an exception, but generally out of China, this is the largest order given to any company anywhere on this earth otherwise. And then there's going to be a 5G upgrade, later. So again, if you see that, we're evolving from an, air optical transport routing, company to actually be a wireless telecom provider, right? Now, what you can see where we really want to go is to actually be one of the leading telecom and networking equipment companies in the world, right? This is make in India, make out of India, for India and rest of the world, right? And the vision is to ensure that we deliver world-class quality products to secure, our country, our infrastructure, our defenses, that's the starting point. And, there's a lot of respect for India. Indians have done extremely well abroad. If you look at the services company, right? It started in the 70s and early 80s, but, they've done extremely well. There is no reason why we cannot be an equipment provider, an OEM provider. And, that is the purpose and that's the mission.
True, that's really great to hear. If we look at the current Indian startup ecosystem, we see that more and more number of companies are coming up. There are more and more aspiring engineers and companies that are willing to play a role in the global market. So what are your thoughts on maybe India in like 15 years down the line as a major exporter of technology?
So I think the opportunity, as I said, it's immense, right? There's a lot of talent. India has got the fastest and the highest rising middle class. So there is a lot of young folks with a lot of energy who are reasonably comfortable in life, right? The bare necessities are all taken care of. So I think they can focus on entrepreneurship, they can focus on risks, they can focus on execution. So I see tremendous opportunity, right? But I think, one of the things that concerns me is, to me, I believe in this, phrase or whatever you want to call it. You play the game well, and the score will take care of itself. But what I find is, people are looking at the score first, and whether they play the game or not, they think score. So you see, a lot of bloated unicorns, right? So to me, that is not a good sign of progress. It is a sign of, kind of pump and dump, right? And I really hope that those things don't set bad examples and, put us back several years, right? I believe in, building foundational stuff, step by step, being in control, being predictable, and, earning your success step by step. But that's not what you see, and that is concerning. And I've seen this in the Silicon Valley back in, the 2000 time when the internet bubble burst. Then again in the 2008 time, and again in recent years. Habits die hard, but I think my advice to the young people is don't get carried away by trophy. Do your part, do your best. Rest will all happen. And the thing is, whatever we do has to be there for eternity. Right? It cannot be something that, is the shining thing for the day and it's, nobody even remembers it tomorrow.
No, I think most of the time that's true. That's a really good observation because we do get carried away by the metrics. You look at the metrics, even be it research throughput or any other parameter for that fact, we look at the metrics first and then think about the quality of work, not the other way around. And yeah, that definitely has to change. So, sir, Chronicles has like a very wide spectrum of audience. So we have students who all the way from first year tuning in to probably experienced alumni and faculty listening in. So let's say for the students who are in their first or second year who have a very vague idea about networking, could you tell them what networking is and what exactly does a network engineer do?
So I'll keep networking, I'll dumb it down. So when two human beings meet, right, there is an exchange that happens. We greet one another, and then we connect, then we communicate, and we shake hands and say goodbye, see you again, or whatever it is, right? To me, this is an orderly protocol, right? Now, an variant will be, say, you just look, say bye, whether you hear it or not, receive it or not, you walk away, and that's a very different set of protocols. So to me, I can relate human communication to networking, right? And in fact, that is how we network. And then this happens in, packets and, digital stuff on the wire, optical or electrons or digital or whatever, happens on the wire. So there is a set of agreed protocols that you say, this is how you will behave, this is how you will, interact. So to me, that is the basics of networking, right? If you and if I can't hear you or you can't hear me, I repeat, which means you retransmit. Then if I say something out of order, you got to resequence it so it's in order. So these are all the basic elements of networking, just to dumb it down. And you take this, and the many avatars have been created for different use cases. Like in routing, you got tons of protocols. In optical, you got another set of protocols. So it is evolved because everybody, invents something new for that particular use case. So to me, that's how networking starts, right? And what I find networking, the reason I find networking to be fascinating is, in the end, it is what connects the world. It's what, the smartphones you're using today is networked. The computers are using is networked. Right? We exchange information, the video conferencing, the audio stuff, exchanging of files, everything is done through network. And in some ways, actually, networking has saved the world in recent years. If you look at the pandemic, right? It could have completely, erased the human race, or a lot of the human race. But the fact that, we took precaution, we stayed home, we stayed vaccinated and all of this, but still, we were able to study, we were able to take exams, we were able to communicate, we were able to do our work, in companies, without having to expose ourselves. And the fact that we are still alive after 2-3, I would attribute that to networking, right? And in fact, I don't even remember if there were networking outages in the world during this time. It's remarkable. I mean, look, in the end, it's hardware and software and things can go wrong. But somehow, video conferences, Zoom, Teams, other stuff, Google Meet or whatever happened, and we stayed in touch, right? With family, with friends, with colleagues, with classmates, right? And that I would attribute to networking. And that is the power of networking.
True, I completely agree. I think I remember one of the ads from one of the telecom companies where the network operator is fixing the line, and his coworker asks, why nobody cares about us network engineers. Then the worker replies that if nobody cares, then it's the success of network engineers. Because people tend to care only if there's an outage of network, but that never happens. So I think, one question I wanted to ask is, I think you have spent a lot of time in the managerial side of your career. So there are engineers, especially the BTech graduates, who are willing to pursue maybe an MBA. So what do you think is the importance of an MBA in the corporate world?
So so as engineers, anyway, I have an MBA. So engineers tend to be, get caught in the weeds, right? All the fine details and all the nuances of whatever we build, right? But then as you grow, you also have to start looking at business, right? Now, engineers will build products, design products, make it work, and all of the other good stuff. But then, defining what the products needs to be, the use cases, who are the customers, how are you going to sell, how are they going to buy, right? And then make money. In the end, we're in a business not for charity, to make money, right? To be profitable. So, so MBA teaches you, it takes you away from being engineers, closer to the metal, I would say. It takes you one step back, and it gives you a holistic view of, whatever you're building, whatever the ideas that you have, right? How do you take it to market, and actually, again, add value, and in the process make money, right? So MBA makes you well-rounded. It's not that as engineers you cannot learn and do that. MBA gives you some structure, to learn that. Yeah.
Okay. So, obviously, MBA gives you a good, well-rounded approach, I think, to even taking decisions. Because you, at least when you're, solving technical problems, you never really think about the market side of things.
Yes.
And oftentimes you have people who work on products for quite a significant time only to realize that it's not marketable.
Yes.
So to have that side of your mind to think about such things is quite relevant, at least when it comes to the business ways.
You cannot understand the importance.
Right. So, sir, there are a lot of engineers. Again, we both are fresh interns right now, working for companies, and we're just beginning our corporate life. So it's very new. A lot of new things we're learning. So for, say, people who are just beginning their corporate career, who just got placed at a company, what advice do you have for them? I know there's no fixed and set rule. There is no defined corporate ladder, as they say. But what do you think it takes to thrive in a corporate environment?
So, first thing is have the humility to learn. When you say humility, it's also humility combined with hunger to learn. There is so much that we have to learn from experience from our colleagues. So that is number one. Then always make your boss's life easy. Don't put him in a spot. Right? What it means is whenever an assignment is given to you, get it done as well as you can, as well as it needs to be, as early as you can. Right? And then you help others who need help. So you learn a lot by helping and by teaching. That's the second thing. Never let your boss down. Never. Because he has placed his trust on you, right? And his success and the company's success depends on what you contribute. And all of us need to enable, the system to make it successful. So that's the third thing that I would take. Don't focus on salary, that you got the best deal and the best money. So when I see, posters saying that he got, this much salary, he got a 6-figure, 8-figure, whatever it is, right? All that will come. Again, focus on the work. Focus on what is it that you have done to earn that money, whatever that you deserve to earn. Again, to me, that is a trophy, but you have to do work. You have to deserve it. Like, you guys deserve to come to this college, right? Similarly, you need to deserve what you get. And it's not that until you get, it's even after you get every day, you have to deserve to be in that place. So what I'm trying to say is learn, help, right? And deliver, right? And be insanely focused. Right? Hopefully you should not be in a position where you're apologizing for failure of a project. Right? That you have done everything humanly possible to make it successful. Even though, let's say, you're one of your colleagues who's, there's a shortfall, you pitch in and help to make it successful. Right? And then it builds upon themselves. Right? The fact that, you've done these things you'll be noticed. And you say, look, this guy is a leader. Right? And then a lot of people, are good engineers and they become managers. And, I've seen a lot of managers who, waste inordinate amount of time at meetings, or in the end paper pushers, and they don't add any major value. Okay? So, but you have to be a leader. It's not you're just a manager, you have to be a leader. But what you find in many companies is they become managers, they forget being leaders. So I would flip it. Always be a leader, whether you're an individual contributor, you don't need a title, right, to be a leader. And also, even as a manager, you be a leader. And then you manage so that there's no chaos.
I think, in the end, it's more about us than I. I think that is the mantra. So I think that brings us to the end of this episode. So I think there's a lot of things that we have learned today. Mostly I think more people, like especially in the fourth years who are going to start their career, I think in this episode they have learned a lot. And thank you so much for making your time for this, sir. We really appreciate you taking your time from your busy schedule, because of course we know how the CEO schedule is. So again, thank you so much for coming here. So thanks to all our listeners. I think we are at the end of this episode. To all our listeners, do feel free to reach out to us on Instagram, and you can drop us a mail ID on uvcega.chronicles@campusuc.in. So I think that brings us to the end. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you. We shall meet again for the next Chronicles episode.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity and all the best.